For 10 years, Seraphina Vale loved a man who barely knew she existed. She had watched Adrian Cross become the youngest self-made billionaire in the country, admired from afar as he turned a failing company into an empire. To the world, he was ruthless, untouchable, and terrifyingly disciplined. To Seraphina, he was simply the boy who had once helped her pick up a stack of fallen books when they were 17. He had forgotten that afternoon. She never had. Their lives separated soon afterward. Adrian inherited responsibility instead of affection, while Seraphina's family lost everything after a business partner betrayed them. She disappeared from his social circle without saying goodbye, carrying her feelings with her. 10 years later, she returned to his world, not as a socialite, but as an employee. She deliberately kept her surname hidden. Working beneath Adrian's authority was difficult. Loving him silently was worse. Every morning, she watched him walk past her desk without recognition. Every evening, she reminded herself that she had survived 10 years without his love and could survive another. Then a corporate crisis changed everything. A multimillion-dollar acquisition was collapsing because of a hidden accounting error. Senior executives blamed one another, investors panicked, and Adrian entered the conference room with a fury that silenced everyone. Who approved this report? No one answered. Seraphina slowly stood. I did. Adrian's eyes fixed on her. You? Yes. You realize this mistake could cost the company millions. I also know how to fix it. She walked to the screen and dismantled the flawed figures one by one. Within minutes, the room understood that the supposed mistake had actually exposed deliberate manipulation from inside the company. Adrian stared at her differently now. Not as an employee. As an opponent worth respecting. When the meeting ended, he stopped her outside the elevator. Seraphina Vale. Her heart stopped. He remembered her name. I didn't know you worked here. You weren't supposed to. Why? She looked directly into his cold gray eyes. Because I didn't come here for you. For the first time, Adrian seemed unable to answer. That evening, he discovered who she really was, the daughter of the businessman whose company had collapsed years ago after a scandal that had nearly destroyed his own family. He also discovered something far more unsettling. Seraphina had been the anonymous analyst who had saved 3 of his company's major deals during the past year. She had been protecting his empire without asking for recognition. Adrian confronted her in his office. Why? Why what? Why help me? She looked at him for several seconds before finally saying what she had spent 10 years hiding. Because I loved you. Silence filled the room. Adrian's expression changed. Seraphina forced herself to continue. I loved you for 10 years. But don't misunderstand me. I'm not asking you to love me back. She placed her resignation letter on his desk. I'm finally choosing myself. She turned toward the door. Behind her, Adrian stared at the letter, then at the woman walking away. For 10 years, he had never noticed when Seraphina entered a room. That night, for the first time, he realized he could not bear watching her leave. Adrian did not sleep that night. Seraphina's resignation letter remained on his desk, untouched beneath the city lights. He had read it so many times that every sentence had become an accusation. She had loved him for 10 years, yet he had been too absorbed in his own ambition to notice the woman quietly standing beside him. By sunrise, her office was empty. Where is she? Adrian demanded. His assistant hesitated. She resigned effective immediately. Where did she go? We don't know. Adrian's jaw tightened. He had spent his life making people answer his questions. For the first time, money, authority, and influence offered him nothing. 3 days later, he found her. Seraphina had taken a temporary position at a small coastal design firm. She had chosen the place precisely because Adrian's world could not reach it. She was wrong. He appeared outside the building just before sunset. Seraphina stopped when she saw him. What are you doing here? Trying to talk to you. We've already talked. No. You confessed. I stood there like an idiot. That's not a conversation. She folded her arms. Then what do you want? The truth. You had 10 years to notice it. The words struck harder than anger. Adrian stepped closer but kept his distance. I didn't know. Exactly. I know that doesn't excuse me. It doesn't. He nodded. I won't ask you to forgive me. Good. I'll ask you to give me one chance to earn it. Her expression wavered, but she quickly looked away. You don't understand, Adrian. I spent years imagining what it would feel like if you ever looked at me. Then I realized I didn't want to spend my life begging someone to see me. You don't have to. Then prove it. She walked away. Adrian stayed where he was. The next morning, he returned. He brought no flowers, no expensive gifts, and no grand promises. He brought coffee. Seraphina stared at the cup. You remembered. You always ordered it without sugar. Her eyes narrowed. You noticed that? I notice everything now. She took the coffee despite herself. For the next 2 weeks, Adrian pursued her without demanding anything in return. He helped repair the firm's damaged accounts, carried boxes when she moved offices, and stood silently beside her whenever she needed company. The ruthless billionaire became patient. The woman who had once loved him began to wonder whether he was finally becoming the man she had imagined. Then a cruel reminder of the past arrived. A legal notice accused Seraphina of stealing confidential information from Adrian's company. She knew immediately who was behind it. Someone wanted her destroyed. Adrian read the accusation and went cold. Did you do this? Seraphina stared at him in disbelief. You actually have to ask? He saw the hurt in her eyes and realized his mistake. No, I don't. He tore the document in half. I believe you. Then find out who did it. I will. That night, Adrian uncovered something disturbing. The evidence had been fabricated using files accessible only to one person on his executive board. Someone inside his empire was deliberately targeting Seraphina. Before he could confront them, his phone rang. He answered. A disguised voice spoke one sentence. If you want her alive, come alone. Adrian's blood turned cold. Across the street, Seraphina was leaving the building, unaware that a black vehicle had begun following her. Adrian ran after her. For the first time in his life, he was terrified of being too late. Adrian reached the street just as Seraphina stepped toward the waiting car. Seraphina. She turned. The vehicle accelerated. Adrian ran after it, but the car disappeared around the corner before he could reach her. His phone vibrated. A photograph appeared on the screen. Seraphina was inside the vehicle, frightened but conscious. Beneath the photograph was a message. Come to the old warehouse alone, or she disappears forever. Adrian's blood ran cold. He ignored every warning and drove there himself. The warehouse stood abandoned at the edge of the harbor. Inside, Seraphina was bound to a chair while a masked man paced behind her. When the doors opened, Adrian walked in. You wanted me. The man laughed. You came exactly as expected. Let her go. You still think money can solve everything. Adrian's expression hardened. No. Tonight, I came without money. The man raised a weapon. Seraphina shouted, Adrian, don't. He moved anyway. The struggle erupted without warning. Adrian managed to knock the weapon away, but another attacker emerged from the shadows and struck him from behind. He fell hard. Adrian. Seraphina fought against her restraints as the men dragged him across the concrete floor. Then distant sirens pierced the night. The attackers panicked. Adrian had secretly activated the emergency signal on his phone before entering. Police stormed the warehouse moments later. Within minutes, Seraphina was free. She rushed to Adrian. Blood ran down his temple. You're hurt. He tried to smile. I've had worse meetings. Her eyes filled with tears. This isn't funny. His expression softened. I couldn't let them take you. You could have died. So could you. She stared at him, trembling. Why would you risk everything for me? Adrian reached for her hand. Because somewhere between losing you and finding you, I realized you had become more important to me than anything I ever built." She could not answer. Then the police brought forward the man responsible. Seraphina froze. It was Adrian's chief financial officer, Marcus Hale, the man who had worked beside Adrian for 12 years. Marcus smiled bitterly. "Your company was never enough for me. I wanted control. Seraphina discovered the transfers, so she had to disappear." Adrian's face became merciless. "You destroyed an innocent woman to steal from me." Marcus laughed. "No. I destroyed her because I knew she'd make you vulnerable." Those words struck Adrian harder than the attack. For years, he had believed strength meant allowing nothing to matter enough to hurt him. Seraphina had changed that. She was his vulnerability, and somehow his greatest strength. After Marcus was arrested, Adrian took Seraphina home. Neither spoke during the drive. At his apartment, she finally turned toward him. "You said I became important to you." "I meant it. But I need more than words." Adrian nodded. "What do you need?" She stepped closer. "I need to know that if I stay, I won't disappear inside your life." "You won't." "I need to know you won't protect me by making decisions for me." "I won't." "And I need to know you aren't chasing me because you regret losing me." Adrian gently touched her cheek. "I chased you because I finally understood what loving you meant." Her eyes shimmered. "What does it mean?" "It means I don't want to own your future." He took her hand. "I want to be part of it." For the first time, Seraphina believed him. She leaned against his chest. Adrian held her carefully, as though she were something precious he had nearly lost forever. But neither of them knew that Marcus had left one final secret behind. The evidence recovered from his office contained a file dated 10 years earlier. Inside was the truth about Seraphina's family's downfall, and the signature authorizing it belonged to someone Adrian had trusted his entire life. Adrian opened the file. His face went pale. Seraphina looked over his shoulder. Then she whispered the only question that mattered. "Who did this to my family?" Adrian stared at the signature. His answer came barely above a whisper. "My father." Adrian stared at the signature until the letters blurred. His father had authorized the transaction that destroyed Seraphina's family. For years, Adrian had believed his father was the man who taught him integrity. Now the evidence revealed something far uglier. The collapse had been deliberate, designed to eliminate a competitor and absorb his assets. Seraphina stepped away from him. "You knew nothing?" "Nothing." She looked toward the window, fighting tears. "Your family destroyed mine." "I know. And you chased me without knowing what your father did." "I know." She turned back. "What are you going to do?" Adrian did not hesitate. "Expose him. It could destroy your company." "It should." She stared at him, stunned. He placed the evidence on the table. "I spent my whole life protecting the name my father built. If that name was built on your family's suffering, then it deserves to fall." For the first time, Seraphina saw that he was willing to sacrifice everything rather than ask her to carry the burden of his family's crime. The next morning, Adrian called an emergency board meeting. Every director expected him to defend his family. Instead, he projected the documents onto the screen. "My father committed fraud," he said. "He destroyed a competitor, concealed the evidence, and allowed another family to take the blame." The room erupted. Adrian remained calm. "I will cooperate with every investigation." One director stood. "You're destroying Vale Holdings." Adrian looked at him. "No. I'm destroying the lie holding it together." Within weeks, the truth became public. Seraphina's family's name was cleared. Assets were returned. Adrian's father faced criminal charges, while Adrian resigned from the company he had spent his entire life building. Seraphina expected him to regret it. He didn't. Instead, he opened a smaller investment firm dedicated to rebuilding businesses ruined by corporate fraud. She joined him, Not because he asked, but because she wanted to. Months passed. Their relationship changed quietly. There were no grand declarations. There were ordinary mornings, shared meals, arguments over paperwork, and evenings when Adrian would reach across the table simply to touch her hand. One rainy night, Seraphina found him standing on their balcony. "You've been unusually quiet." "I'm thinking." "That sounds dangerous." He smiled. "I've been thinking about the first day I truly saw you." "You mean the day I resigned?" "Yes." She laughed softly. "You were terrified of losing an employee." "No." He turned toward her. "I was terrified of losing the woman I had spent 10 years failing to notice." Seraphina's expression softened. Adrian took a small box from his pocket. She stared at it. "Adrian." "Don't worry. There's no audience." He opened it. Inside was a simple ring. "I don't want you because I once lost you." He took her hand. "I want you because every day since finding you has made me understand what I was missing." He lowered himself to one knee. "Seraphina, I spent 10 years chasing success because I thought having everything meant never needing anyone." His voice softened. "Then you walked away, and I discovered that a life without you could contain everything except happiness." Tears filled her eyes. "Will you marry me?" She smiled through them. "Only if you promise never to chase me again." Adrian laughed. "I can't promise that." "Why?" "Because if you ever run away, I'll follow you." She pulled him to his feet and kissed him. This time, neither of them was running. A year later, they returned to the town where Seraphina had once tried to escape his world. But Adrian had one final surprise. He had purchased the abandoned building where her father's company had once stood and transformed it into a community business center for young entrepreneurs. At the entrance stood a bronze plaque bearing her father's restored name. Seraphina covered her mouth. "You did this." "We did." She looked at him. "When?" "While you thought I was secretly terrible at planning our wedding." She laughed. "You are terrible at planning weddings." "Then it's fortunate I married the woman who is good at everything." She rested her head against his shoulder. 10 years of silent love had brought Seraphina to the edge of despair. One night had changed Adrian. One betrayal had exposed the truth. And one choice had changed both their lives. She had once loved him because he was the man she could never have. Now she loved him because he had willingly surrendered everything that stood between them. Adrian kissed her forehead. "Are you happy?" Seraphina looked at the building, the life they had built, and the man beside her. "For the first time," she whispered, "I don't have to wonder." And when Adrian took her hand, she held it tightly. Neither of them knew what tomorrow would bring. But for once, they weren't afraid of it. They would face it together.